People can build working apps within few hours and within few days. From getting an insight to writing a positioning, then everything you are doing is writing a prompt. We're not
Hmm.
writing content for humans anymore. We are writing content for AI to be discovered by other AI. AI has been very efficient in finding insights. I think the biggest problem is over reliance on AI. AI is not to take your job away, it's only to make your life simple.
AI is not going to replace marketers or founders. It will remove the frictions so that better thinking, stronger creativity, and faster learnings can happen. Hi, Ashish. Welcome to the podcast AI versus Business Builders. And I'm really glad to have you here. So, you have worked at the intersection of creativity, performance, and technology long before the AI became the buzzword. So, before we get into the modern campaigns that are built today, I want to start with your journey, how you started, how you approach systems and creativity, and how you scale today, like based upon your hands-on experience with your brands, teams, and all the market.
Thank you so much, Radhika, for inviting me. I know it's been due for some time, but it's really interesting to have this conversation with somebody who's been in industry for a while. So yeah, great. Looking forward to this conversation. Regarding your question about the journey, so it's been about 15 years that I've been in marketing, and it wasn't only about marketing. It started with a disruption in the entire technology ecosystem, similar to very much what we're seeing right now. So back in 2010 and 11, the 5G ecosystem was just building up in India, and I used to work for a technology company. And as part of the technology development, you will be in a lab and you will be going through a demo of how the product is working. So there was this one day in which there was this exercise that they were doing, and there was 1000 Gbps of speed that we saw on the monitor, and that was a time when we would have 2 Mbps speed. And then and there we had an epiphany that world is going to change. I mean, it's not going to be an offline world, it's going to be an online world. And that is where I decided that I need to move forward. I need to start building businesses which sits upon the internet, and how they can revolutionize the ecosystem. That is where my marketing journey started. I worked with a couple of agencies which worked in digital ecosystem, and the story has been ongoing since then.
So that is so amazing. So, what pulled you like basically in the marketing and creativity growth?
So at that time, there were two things that we could decide on. One was the mobile finance, and the cryptocurrencies and the Paytm part of it. It was a little boring, but I had been always very creative. I was a storyteller and an avid reader. I wanted to tell stories and promote things without being very salesy. So marketing seemed like the most appropriate field for me, where I could be a storyteller, where I could still sit behind the camera and narrate a story to everybody. So I think that part was really interesting, and I think the technology part was something very interesting at that point of time itself. The entire internet and how we could just move people through digital connectivity. So that part was really interesting.
Mm, lovely. So, you have worked with the large global brands and all the fast moving digital teams. Did those experience teach you about how campaigns are actually built or versus how they are talked about?
So I worked with all different kind of ecosystem. I've worked with an agency where we would still work with a bigger client. I have worked with big brands where the budgets have been in crores, and getting a campaign off the ground is really a hassle. I worked with startups as well. So my learning in each ecosystem has been different. When you're working with the agency, you are actually trying to understand the perspective of the brand and the TG and the audience. So you have a very third point of view on how to approach these things. You can hear what people are talking about. You can do a market research, and then you bring that point of view to the brand. But when you're in a brand, and working in some of the big brands like Domino's and Nat Geo, the key challenge has been to get anything off the ground. That is because they've already done so many things. They've already experimented, and they have that kind of an experience in the repository. So to get a marginal improvement in what is already established is a pain in itself. So you are sitting at the edge of anything new that launches. I mean, when we were in Shopclues, we became a unicorn, and to get that jump over Snapdeal or Flipkart, you had to try something new. So you have to sit on the edge to try and get something done. And even if you have to get something done, I mean, the approval cycle is huge. Whereas in a startup, you have an open hand. You go ahead, you want to try something new, you try it out, but your experiments needs to be very fast. You need to understand your market, and then you need to revamp, you need to evolve, you need to change and go back in the market and try with a different kind of campaign that might suit to your TG. But the pressure that you have in a startup is much more. The entire responsibility of getting the people to get the revenue of the books is something that you have to deliver. So that part is different, but I think there's a different highness of it, and I've come to that level in my experience that I enjoy working with startups because I have that experience. I understand the processes, I understand what really works, what channel works, but to get things off the ground is something that gives a high.
That's true. So what do you do basically right now? Currently, what is it about? Like, I think you are working on yourself as a brand.
So right now I'm working with few B2B organizations. They are building their SaaS related products in AI field only. So I'm working in capacity of fractional CMO. So getting the product ready because the products are in marketing ecosystem. One company is called solads.ai. It's a AI based ad agency. They work with clients to build AI brand products and UGC technologies, UGC brand ads, and they're also building a platform where you could just create a AI video yourself. So the technology is still work in progress, but at least the agency part is off the ground. So right now it's a lot of B2B marketing and the planning for B2C marketing. There are a few other firms that I'm working. They are in B2B SaaS AI works only. So one of them is working in the pricing ecosystem. So it's called pricecompass.ai. So they help B2B SaaS companies in building the best solution and pricing for their clients.
That's interesting. So you are working as a fractional CMO. Like, okay. So do you also work on the campaigns, or is it more like a strategy itself?
So the campaign part starts from insights and then executing. So you have an insight. What is it that the problem that you're solving?
Mm,
Then you work on a positioning that how are we approaching that problem, and then you build a communication route, then you activate all the channels. So my role is starting at an insight level. So a lot of these companies, they have built a product because they believe there is a problem that they're solving.
mm,
While they understand that problem, but how to approach or how to position that product in the right audience is something they are not very sure. Or like for example, both the company that I'm working with, one is backed by a production guy, somebody who's been executing and building brand ads for a very long time, right? But how do you go ahead and pitch that AI product that you're building to your TG? It requires a certain kind of positioning. Whereas, the other company that I'm working with, it's started by a ex McKinsey guy. While he knows how the pricing works, but how to position it himself as a product is something which is different. So from the level of deciding what the positioning is to activating the messaging, then activating all the channels, and then learning from entire campaign and feeding it back is something that I'm helping. And in the past, of course, I've created many B2C campaigns and B2B campaigns. So there's a lot of learning from that.
mm. So, it was there any moment like you realized that systems and automation had to play a bigger role, and the traditional way of running campaigns are not no longer enough?
That has been an ongoing thing. So in 2016, while I was working with Shoploose, the biggest challenge was that you would have around 2 million products and you would have around 20 categories, and every product and every category has a different kind of audience. So how do you promote every product? It was just humanly not possible, so automation had to step up at that time. There was something called dynamic product ads that both Meta and Google launched around that time. So that time it was a realization that automation will play a very big role, especially if you are investing money in paid ads. You would need some kind of mechanism where the system itself is smart enough to decide what to promote and when to promote and what kind of creatives would work. So that was something that came back in 2016. And now
Mhm.
you look at your Google ads, I mean, they are driven by AI. They
Yeah,
understand
true.
exactly. So they understand what kind of audience would reply to what kind of products and at what time. So that has been a progression. Right now, what has happened is like the B2C part was quite sorted. The B2B part, where you had to do lead generation, you wanted a sales guy who's replying to the emails or following up. So while Salesforce was there, but now you have these automation tools that you can create your own workflow. So if you are a startup of a B2B organization, and I tell this to both the companies I work with, that you should not be spending time in managing and replying to people. There has to be an automation which is driven by personalization, and we've built those systems. So it's changed quite a bit since that time, but it is ongoing, and we'll see a lot more of it since we have a releasing engine available to everybody.
That is so nice. Like, because like I remember placing the manual bids when I started with the Google ads, and currently like it's been a long time that they have put it use the manual bid strategies. Correct.
Right.
It's simply like the times are changing very fast in the experiences and making the AI as a serious way for running a campaign.
Absolutely. I think the paid ad part was sorted very much in advance. The
Mhm.
organic part now is also sorted, and you're seeing it with the way that SEO is done.
But
Or
I don't know, like if it's true or not. But like people say, and I've read somewhere as well, like the ChatGPT written content and AI written content is like something that Google's search engine usually flag it. So is it like true, or is it like something that we need to be more advanced in making the content so that we can take the help of ChatGPT, but the content while placing for the search engine optimization should be more advanced level.
so eventually, if you look at the people who are supposed to write, I mean, and in my previous organization, BlueStacks, we were working globally with the writers and gamers who would, and we'll create blogs about games and what part of the game is interesting, and we'll hire these people from Fiverr or Upwork, and they were gamers who would understand the games and write about it. So I believe the knowledge part of what needs to be created
Hmm.
still resides with people, but what is being created, like for example SEO, like you mentioned, since 2023, late 2023, we've been writing content using AI, but there are steps to it. I mean, we define what are the right first we actually do a market research of what kind of things people are talking about again, and that itself is quite a hard part. But if you imagine having one person scrolling through different websites, different communities, and scraping through what the relevant topic is, and you discover there is a topic that you need to write upon, all of that
Hmm.
is already done by AI scraper. So that scraper goes, writes that these are the things that people are actually talking about. Then you have an AI engine which just writes it in a structure that SEO supports. So you have your headings and you have your stats. And SEO is no longer for just Google, it's for AI now. So we are
Hmm.
doing AI in a partial sense. So then we create that structure, and once that structure is created, it goes to that humanizer, and then we look at the AI detection score. Once it is done, it goes to somebody who's reviewing it, and that is still the guy who used to write about the games. And we have, from a scale of let's say 500 blogs in a week, we are writing 8,000 blogs in a week. So we have more reviewers who are just reading all this content, and it's going out in the market, but that learning is quite fast. So now we can try different languages, we can try different games, we can try different hooks, and we know if the traffic is coming on this particular conversation, great. If it's not, then that blog would anyways not sustain. But since we have a tool which can do the research and we can take it live very fast, it's become very simple for people to not spend time in writing and grammatically improving it, but actually reviewing it. And that learning goes back into the system, and it's making us smarter. So, and I think even that part, what we are doing is quite old. Now we are shifting to AI. We're not
Hmm.
writing content for humans anymore. We are writing content for AI to be discovered by other AI reasoning models only.
True,
So
true,
that
true.
part is evolving very fast.
Yep, true. That is so true. So all these experiences like bring us to today's conversation. Let's talk about what really goes behind the scenes, like inside the AI creative stack and how modern campaigns are actually built. So when people hear AI creative stack, it sound complex. So would you like to explain it very in a very simple terms to somebody who does not understand what AI creative stack is?
Um, so if you are a founder of an AI company, I mean, and you hear something like AI creative stack, then the first thing that will pop in my head is that, it's an expensive tool that I need to procure and it will help me with certain things. But it's more complex than that. Uh, so if you were to get your communication out, if you just wanted to tell about your product to people, there are different channels that you need to activate, right? And there is your paid ads where you need to write copies, there is SEO where you need to write blogs, and all of it needs to create some value for the people it's going to. So that is a text format, right? So there are tools that manage the text uh, format of output or the channels that will go out to. Similarly, if you're on social media, you are on communities, you are on LinkedIn, you need to create an image that would just appeal to. Or outdoor media. I mean, outdoor media is very underrated for some reason, but outdoor media is extremely effective. You ask Dipinder Goyal right now. So building those catchy creative is something that is a different layer altogether. And it's just not that. I mean, it somewhere relates to the website that you're building or the UI of your app also. So the imagery or the color combination is a completely different layer of products that you are engaging with. And then it comes to video. And video is something that, you want an explainer video, you want a brand ad, or right now that really appeals to people are UGC ads that, are driven by third-party influencers. So all of it is a different tool altogether. So it's an entire ecosystem that helps you create your communication in different formats so that it can work with different channels. And every channel has a different requirement. For example, if you are working on a brand ad, the aesthetics of it needs to look very realistic, and it needs to be sharp and witty, and in 30 seconds you need to complete it. So a product which is built for delivering that is something very different versus, let's say, Arcads, which is a software which is just focused on creating UGC content. So I think from the complexity standpoint, it's a list of multiple tools that you need to identify for these channels. But it's simplified the entire life for any marketer. I mean, it would not take a lot of time for a founder to just understand what these channels are, and why these tools and why this creative stack is important. It kind of helps them. So yeah, that is what I would say. It's an entire ecosystem in some sense, and not just tools.
It's not just one tool, it's like a different connected systems, like you can connect with the multiple channel, or is it like
Exactly. So for every channel, there's a different kind of tool that helps him build that channel messaging.
so like what is the beginning part, like how is campaign creation today, like what is the first step while you are creating the campaign?
So, like I said, the first thing that you need to do is to get an insight, and that insight could be very simple. If you're launching a product, I mean, there's a problem and there's a solution that you're offering to the market. Or if you're an existing brand, then let's say one insight was that people buy a lot on Sundays. So in shop clothes, in Domino's, people love to buy garlic bread on winters, or they love to buy chocolate cake. So these are the insights that you get, and that becomes the core of how you build a campaign. Once you have an insight, you try and build a positioning that, this is what people are doing, how do I communicate it better to my users, and you decide on a communication route. And at the time of creativity where you are deciding on what that copy is going to be, this is where the AI assists you. You need to decide on the positioning, you need to know what will appeal to my TG, how would I say this to my TG and it would appeal. But the syntax of it for that particular channel is something that would be assisted by AI. For example, if I was to write a paid copy, you can have a write a Sonic or Jasper.ai or any Gemini or ChatGPT write that copy for you in those particular constraints. Or if you were to build a image for it, let's say for your paid ads, display ads, then you'll have a different tools that will just build that entire image for you, given the kind of constraints that you might have. So the brand guidelines or the imagery, for example, and these are insights that every industry would have. Like if you give that prompt to a Google Nano Pro, then what kind of a imagery would appeal to a pizza lover would be very different versus a e-commerce website. So once you're done with your communication, then you're just writing prompts. That is how the campaign flow has changed. From getting an insight to writing a positioning, then everything you are doing is writing a prompt, and that prompt is either writing a paid ad copy, or writing a blog for your campaign, or creating an image for you, creating a brand ad video for you, or a UGC video for you. For every kind of tool, the structure of the prompt changes
Hmm.
based on what that channel needs. And that insight is something still that a marketer would need to have. But it's become very agile, like I said. I mean, there was a time when we would give this brief to an agency to write, and now it's come to a level that if you are evolved enough in that tool itself, you can write those prompts in a day, and you can have an output, at least few drafts of it, ready to show, to your team in some time.
So, like, is there any problems that show up when the systems are missing right now?
A lot, actually. I think the biggest problem is the gap between the insight and the requirement. So a lot of people, and it's with my team itself, that they miss on the part of depending a lot on AI. A requirement is not equivalent to you having a prompt for the system. So understanding of how it should communicate to your user is something that you still have to do, but people are not doing that, and that gap, I think, would eventually fill with time. The second is the constraint of how an AI delivers an output is reducing. I mean, from the time when VO2 came out versus the time when VO3 came out. I mean, text was a big problem in a lot of AI image creation, and now it's resolved. And I think it's a matter of a year that most of the things, most of the outputs that you see through AI are going to be much more realistic and much more closer to what human derives. And we've all heard about emergent. It's already happening for the coding. I mean, people can build working apps within few hours and within few days. So we are heading there, but the value add of what that messaging should be is still something that needs to be derived by one person, be it a CMO, or be it a brand manager, or be it a founder itself.
Okay. So, this stack is designed to solve the major core problem, which is going to be in the future, or is it like currently?
It has already solved this problem. The dependence that we used to have on different teams, like in National Geographics, for example, there was a team of designer which were 10 to 11 team members, and it would go for an approval cycle with a different team altogether. Creating a video would be like a month-long process. So if you have built brand ads, if you know the hassle of hiring a production agency, then interviewing the director, and then going out and shooting it, and then getting that final cut over a month of time, all that problem is solved. And that's a lot of money being saved right now. I can create a hyper realistic brand ad in matter of hours if I want to get it to perfection. And Solage is something which is doing it right now. We're working with few brands, and we've built these brand ads in matter of days, where the hyper realism is so much that you can't really differentiate whether it was shot or whether it's an AI ad. So it has already solved the problem. The founder just needs to understand it. I think the right now the problem with founder is they believe that they can do it themselves. By just having a requirement, they can create everything themselves. But the storytelling part is still something that needs to reside with somebody, be it a agency or be it with just one person. So that part, I think, would not go away. I mean, you still need to tell your story, right? AI cannot tell a story for you. So that part is still that is with humans.
In your experience, like, I think, like, in my experience, like, like, I have me and my team are very happy to adopt any AI tools, but it's very complicated. Like, for each member, we have to like just give them like a micromanage or something to opt the AI tools, so that they can see the real leverage out of it. So, do you also kind of face such issues? Because we have multiple tools, we have things, but people kind of fail to see the real leverage and what it can help them for their future employment as well.
That is there. I think the technology acceptance model, it's called TAM. So there's a resistance in people to acknowledge and accept the technology. Uh, that will be there. That was there with my team also. I think it stems from the fear that they would be replaced by AI, which I don't think so. would happen.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Because my content writer, she's very brilliant. So she writes, she has been working with me for like 4 years right now. But still, she likes to write all the topics by herself rather than, taking the help from the chat GPT. So it's like very difficult for us. Like we want like, okay, like you said, now you were earlier, you were getting like 45 articles, but now you are around 8,000 articles. So we also wanted to do that, but she is not readily accepting. She says like, okay, no, ChatGPT does not write like what I want to. The output the really I want. But to be honest, the output is really her output is better than the ChatGPT's output. She understands things better, but still, I think that she can optimize it and work it out through the ChatGPT and her through her ideas itself. So the prompt is better to write the contents and make it in the number. But I think that this is not just my team members problem. I think there are like many other people like them as well. So do you also think that why do team they don't are like they are not easily accepting the AI tools?
that is the problem. See, a workflow of a writer would be different than just giving a prompt to ChatGPT, right?
Hmm.
If I was to tell you that just write a blog about this, the first thing you would do is you would research what are the most interesting things about that thing, and you have a way of telling a story, right? You start with a hook, then you give a content, or you give a problem, and then you suggest a solution, and there's a dilemma, and then you create a solve a problem. So there's a
Hmm.
structure of right storytelling, and that structure is with the writer. ChatGPT will not construct that structure altogether. While it may have a baseline knowledge, but it may not. So uh, it is up to the writer to empower AI to write well. And that would mean probably going ahead and doing a research, right? You cannot just expect one blog to come out perfect. So even what we automated, the first thing was that we would ask the AI to do a research, and research would mean scrolling the communities, and we know what communities are good. We can't read all of them, but scrolling the communities, scrolling the YouTube videos, transcribing the videos into text, and then reading it. It gives a lot of context to that AI in understanding what the problem is.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what a writer would also do, and that is why they are writing better. But if you give that same context and that same workflow to an AI to do all of it and build a context of what needs to be written. And then you suggest a structure that, this is the way that you need to give a heading. You need to write a good hook, write this, or you need to have this kind of a context somewhere out here. Then it would write it. But all of that knowledge needs to again come back to the AI so that itself learns himself. And I think a simple thing to do is having a review cycle. So all the workflows that I've created for my SEO, there's always like two level of checks. First, deciding what the context is, like what is it that you want to write the blog about, and the second is once I get a final output of the blog. So both the things are approved by me, but the workflow is so simple that they would do that entire writing part and it would come back on my email. I'll just scroll through it and I'll just say that the structure could have been better, or we can add more links or hooks around this time of this thing, which because I know that something else was popular, so just add it to the blog. But
Hmm.
it's self-learning, so that reasoning model, if you have that sufficient memory in the workflow, it will improve. So what you said, I've faced something similar, and I've only told my team members that whatever process you would do, why don't you just deploy it in a workflow? You make it smarter, and you still do the reviewing part. And somewhere it comes to personal ego also, that I'm a writer and AI cannot do writing better than me. That's totally fine. You can still write for your own interest or write stories for your own enjoyment. But this way, at least you can scale things up, and there is no shying away from it.
That is so like appropriately said, no? So this is nice. So my next question is like, which part of coming back towards our campaign life cycles only. So which part of campaign life cycle have the most, you according to you, has the biggest transformation?
So, in terms of effectiveness, there is no replacement of how efficiently AI can find insights. uh, and this has been scarily good. Like so remember having dashboards or data studios. I'm sure many companies still have it. We would have it like every morning we'll look at the data and we'll try and find some interpretation to this pattern, what happened and not. We stopped doing it. We used to dump our data of entire Google Ads or for Google Console or Google Analytics into that AI and find the patterns that were distinct, that human eye cannot do it. I think that part just come naturally to AI, and from there stemmed out different insights that this is something which is happening, and you can only perceive why this would happen or why something like this is happening, and then you do a market research. So I think AI has been very efficient in finding insights. It is definitely efficient in building the execution layer of things, like creating videos or creating images, creating text, and it's only improving in that. The middle part is still something that I would not want to outsource to AI, but do it myself. The communication part,
Mhm.
but yeah, and it's only getting efficient. If you've been following what Sora 2 has been doing or what VO3 has been doing, or I've been working with Hagen for such a long time, I've seen their entire digital cloning methodology improve so much. So all of it will continue to improve. And like my prediction is that soon the entire workflow can be handled by an AI agent, and that is for both of us to see in near future, that we see entire workflow would be done by AI agents. That would be interesting for sure.
So campaigns like started like learning to like they can itself start from learning to instead of guessing, and we this is like AI system can change like way the campaigns are actually improved and work out in a better way.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm literally imagining a time when I would have an interface talking, and it would say that, certain people in this area is using your product more. Why don't you run a paid ads campaign of this amount? And I'll just say approve, and the ad would be running with the copy and the creative already created. And like after a week, it would tell me that it worked or it did not work, and it would just remember it for the next year to learn and adapt. This is something which is doable probably 3 months or 4 months down the line. And in fact, there are workflows very close to this that exist right now. I mean, at least on your prompt or on your Telegram, WhatsApp, you can create a AI assistant to do it for you.
Mm.
So this will happen. And again, nothing scary. For a founder, it's a bliss.
So that's true. And what are the most common mistakes that in your experience that you see in AI driven setups?
I think the biggest problem is over reliance on AI. And this is something people who are early adopters in AI, I mean, looking at the output that comes out, they're like super happy. They did not expect this output would be so good, and they just go with it. Sometimes AI does not have the right context of what you are planning to do, and you need an expert to review it. That has been one thing that I've still not moved away from. So if you are working on a video and you have an output, I would still run it through a producer or somebody who's been delivering brand ads, because the minor aesthetics, the way the color combination or the tonality of the video itself tells a lot. But if a brand manager wrote a really detailed prompt and output came out better than his expectation, does not mean that the brand ad is perfect. So you still need some kind of experts to review it, somebody who understands what the context of that particular creative or that particular output in AI is. Very similar to support systems. So I've also managed automating few of the support system, how people react or how your AI should respond to certain things. And a lot of companies are just building a chatbot which will just support, and you just leaving it in the world. But the way that people will raise those questions on how to handle them, the empathy part is something that may not come. So I always tell my team to just review all these AI as to how they communicate. So I think supervision is something that is still a must right now.
Agreed. So, like, how are the marketing teams right now evolving as AI becomes a permanent infrastructure?
So I read somewhere that the role of CMO is vanishing, and it is rightfully so. You are evolving into a strategist that understands how to narrate a story for
Mm.
your product to your TG. So either you are a storyteller, or you are an operation guy who understands how a workflow would work, how a smooth workflow needs to work. Uh, so It will change. The teams are much leaner. I mean, you have a expert of, let's say, a brand builder who can still review your creatives, but you won't have that person on board permanently. There's no motion designer, there's no graphics team. They are just reviewing most of the stuff which is done by them. Uh, Also, a lot of the marketing effort would now be done focused on AIs. If my audience is just interacting with LLM models or the AI interface, I would create content which would get me cited on those AI tools. And that part is tricky because the way AI interprets things is always evolving, right? So most of the CMO roles, like in fact, the way that we are creating content, it's focused to get cited on AI along with Google, the crawlers. So that part is something which is different. CMO's role is not just about users, but to impress AI bots as well.
Okay. Like you also like it's like continuous thing that we are saying in almost every podcast. Like the people, marketers should become valuable by learning the AI, and you should not overwhelm by the artificial intelligence. So we have discussed a lot of things. Would you like to play a short rapid fire expert game, like specially designed for our business?
Sure, why not?
Okay. One marketing belief that AI has permanently broken.
You need motion designers and graphics people. You need technical know-how to build a website.
And one task AI should never own.
Building relations.
Building relation. That's nice. And one task that humans should stop doing manually. At like exactly.
Sending follow-up emails.
Sending follow. Oh, that's nice. The biggest misuse of AI in marketing today.
uh, Getting small copies written in that.
Mhm. It is like especially for the Google ads and
Right.
Facebook ads.
Right.
Most overrated AI metric.
Response time.
Response time. Okay. One system that matters more than any tool.
How you communicate with your clients.
Agreed. One sign a team is doing AI wrong.
If they don't have any LLM APIs being used and just only interfaces being used,
The biggest AI illusion founders fall for.
that AI will solve all their problem for them.
One workflow you would automate first.
Lead generation and nurturing.
One creative decision AI improves immediately.
I think video production, high scale video production.
And one creative decision AI should not touch.
There is none actually.
Not at all, not even the ideas part as well.
I would say that ideas are coming through some repository that AI has. I think storytelling part is something that AI should not touch. How to narrate a story, the screenplay part of it,
Hmm. The fastest way AI increases performance.
by being efficient in building creatives,
And the fastest way AI destroys quality.
by not having the context of what they are creating. Poor prompts, basically.
Poor prompts. One thing agencies must unlearn in the AI era.
Building presentations.
And one things that agencies must learn.
Understanding the problem and the context of the messaging.
One habit that separates great marketing teams right now.
Always learning.
All this learning how?
Always learning, always
What's
adapting to the.
always learning. Okay. One signal a campaign is ready to scale.
I think when the revenue plateaus,
And one signal that campaigns should be killed early.
when the creative don't work.
One mindset shift that matters most in AI led marketing.
AI is not to take your job away, it's only to make your life simple.
So, AI today, is it closer to being an assistant or a decision maker?
Right now, it's an assistant.
Right now, it's assistant. So, do you think AI becoming a decision maker in future?
If we empower it, it's up to us. And like a lot of founders might find value in allowing it to make decisions.
Best campaigns that start with audiences or offer.
A type of campaign. I think campaign that creates value for people. And in India, the value is perceived by how people acknowledge you. So making your audience look good is the most valuable thing, and discounts and offers are secondary. But making your audience look good, making or adding value to the audience is the most important thing.
That has been very explanatory, basically. And any other tool that you are very obsessed right now with AI, like AI tool?
So there was this one tool mm, which not many founders have started using as of now, but I saw the value in it. So over time, a lot of these founders, a lot of these product designers, and everybody, they take up this role of pricing their products. So if you work with B2B SaaS organizations, they have to put a price value to the subscription or the value or the product they're offering, right? Now, what I did not know is that most of these firms, which are even as big as $50 million worth revenue, they are losing around 10 to 15% of their revenue just by not pricing the things correctly. And the reason is, what I found out was none of these organizations has a guy who is expert in pricing these products. It's either a role of a product guy or either a role of a revenue guy, or sometimes founders would see a competitor and say that, maybe something I should also price myself something similar to that. But there's a complete science behind it, why a product should be priced at a particular point. And that 10% value is like really high. So I came across this tool which allows you to do that. It kind of asks a question about your company or what products you create, and basis that it gives a score as to what your pricing should be. And I
Oh,
found it to
nice.
be very interesting because people don't really talk about it. It's something that is a kind of a undernote of things to be done by somebody, but pricing really decides how much revenue you make. So having an AI dictate and optimize it for you is really brilliant.
And what is the name? The
It's called pricingcompass.ai.
nice. That is, I'll go and check it. Any tool that you think that it's overhyped?
Hickfield. I know it's not a very popular thing, but Hicksfield AI is kind of a kind of a wrapper to all the text to video or image to video models. But what it adds value is the kind of creators they have created different effects on it. But it's not really for normal people. It's for some few artists who've done really well. So it's overhyped. I mean, if you're a brand manager, I'm sure you would have heard about it, but it's not something that delivers value for just anybody.
Oh. So do you think like what is better, more data or better questions?
Better questions.
Better questions, not more
Uh,
data.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you don't have the right questions, there's no point of having that data. And we've had that problem in multiple firms. We had so much data, but we didn't know what is it that is adding value to us. So that data paralysis is a very real thing. You need to ask the right questions.
Need to ask right questions. That is like that brings to the end of our rapid fire round. Um, as we wrap up, one thing is like very clear that modern marketing is not about doing more work. It's about designing the better systems. And AI on its own does not create any advantage. Clarity does, structure does, questions does, right?
Absolutely.
And teams that will win are not the ones who are chasing every new tool. They are the ones who understand their audience deeply and build a repeatable process and let the intelligence compound over time.
Absolutely. I think bang on. You just summarized it so well.
So AI does not, as I repeatedly saying in every podcast, that AI is not going to replace marketers or founders. It will remove the frictions so that better thinking, stronger creativity, and faster learnings can happen.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for joining this conversation. This episode is like something that I'm rethinking how campaigns are built behind the scene. And if people are listening to it are also thinking the same. So I think the job is done. So next time we'll when you will be creating the campaigns, focus on the hacks and not less focus on hacks and more focus on the systems.
Absolutely.
Um,
Right.
Okay, so the real advantage is will belong to those who know what to ask, what to measure, and what to ignore. So if you are a founder or a marketer listening, your edge will not coming from adopting AI faster. It will come from thinking more clearly than others, right?
Absolutely.
Um, Thank you so much, Ashish. It has been a great conversation. And thank you for sharing your journey and clarity. And to everyone listening, remember that the future of marketing belongs to those who design systems, not just campaigns.
Fantastically said, Radhika. Thank you so much for having this conversation. I think we are at a cusp of a revolutionary change, and we're
True.
just seeing all these changes going to happen very rapidly. And having met so many founders, I know that while they are building things, the entire ecosystem is shifting under their feet. So it's a big challenge. So it's good to have such shows where we can have conversations on how the world is evolving, and sharing this knowledge amongst each other so that we grow as a community.
Today, like if you are even working in a, something which is not required in a tech field, they are also needing artificial intelligence right now. So it's so amazing. Like we are witnessing this big change which is happening right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think so we do have discussions amongst the peers that how do we see this ecosystem evolving. And yeah, I think in 4 5 years, the job ecosystem or how we do business ecosystem is entirely going to change. And
Change.
that effect will come close to, how you do things from consumer markets to education. Everything is going to change.
Okay. So about your business, like currently what you are doing, is it something it's like generating leads or you're working with the references only?
So right now it's about reaching to the right audience with the right pitch. Um for for Solad, it's more of building, the kind of right messaging for the brief that we receive, and then automating that entire part, like what is the output that we really want for that thing. So not only just creating the leads, but actually converting and delivering those outputs to these brands. So the kind of approach that we are taking with these brands is guiding them from the insight till the execution level. And surprising, there is a lot more interest on TikTok and UGC ads than brand ads, and I think that's been a shift for a while now. But a lot of the queries that we do get is for automating a lot of the redundant thing.
Mm.
Social media, how do you automate your social media, or SEO is something that we have a repository, we have a playbook, we have the workflows already ready. So we can just plug and play all these things into your work system and it kind of works. But the true thing is to actually narrate the right story with the right messaging. So that part is something more interesting. The other part that I'm working on is more collaborated with shorter smaller startups who are just looking for a GTM strategy. Most of them have an AI solution, and they're looking at somebody who can guide them to launch their product in the market. So that is where the connectivity to pricing it correctly or understanding the playbook of B2B marketing is coming along. It's more straightforward, but again, doing a lot of more automation in that.
So if somebody wants to reach you, which is the best way to contact you?
So right now, I already have like 2, 3 firms that I'm working closely with, but they can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, or I've added my email ID. They can reach out to. But if you're looking for building a brand ad or a UGC ad using AI with shorter timelines, then definitely visit solads.ai. If you're looking for a strategist to guide you through pricing and GTM strategy, then please visit Navigation X or pricingcompass.ai. You will find that there's a lot of intelligence in how we can position our product well.
That's so nice. Okay, thank you so much. So I think that brings to an end of our podcast. And do you want to add something to for the listeners who are listening right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think firstly, thank you, Radhika, for having this conversation. It's always lovely to meet peers in the industry. For all the founders, I would say that just keep the focus on building the value for your users. I mean, have a problem and just solve it. Strategy part is still going to be with you. Think of AI as people that you can hire, and do not just worry about them replacing you. I know getting funding is not easy. Building a product itself is not easy, and having a layer of acquiring people and reaching out people is not easy. But thankfully, you have unlimited source of resources that you can hire, and they can work for you. And there are experts in the industry that can just automate that thing for you. So don't worry. Meet a lot of people, discuss a lot of people. There are a lot of people like me who can help you with marketing, or people in finance, or people in HR who are providing these solutions. So just reach out, and I'm sure we can build a healthy ecosystem in Indian AI market.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a
Thanks.
nice day. Bye
You-
bye.
Bye.